Let's put some members in there. I think I started that too early. Let's put some members in there. Now, the funny thing about FuelPHP is with all the checks that it has and all the different validations and everything, if you look, you go to core and you go to validation, right? It doesn't have a rule that sort of pops off anything that's the same. There's no unique rule. And you know what I mean by unique rule? The fact that you want to make sure that people that signed up with a specific email address don't sign up twice and stuff like that, same usernames and everything. If you look at this right here is what they tell you to do in order to have that in your specific site. Okay? We need to make a rule in classes that they just gave us here and for whatever reason didn't put in the framework. Now, I'm not sure if they wanted to make it lesson or whatever, but it makes no sense to me. I don't know why they didn't just put this in there. And we'll go unique rules, and we'll say public static. You could just copy paste it if you want. It's up to you. How did I call it before? I'll never understand. I'll never understand why they didn't just put a unique rule in there. I called it validation unique. Okay. You have to name, again, you have to name it a specific way. You have to. If you don't, it can't reference. I closed the window, by the way. Validation unique. Wait, it returns result and value and options. And we're just going to do what it tells us to do here. We list table, which is the table name, and the field in the table. And we explode the dot from anything that was put in there. And then the result is a class where we select the regular expression of lower and lower, and this is one line, but we can do that, where field equals. This is how you do queries in Fuel. Well, this is one way. This is why I do the ORM, because execute cleans everything up. Return not if the result count is greater than 0. And that's it. We have that. Did I name it the same thing? Unique. We have that, and now we can add that to our checks. And the way you do validation is you name a variable. We're going to call this register, and the variable will be a validation, and then we say forge. So we're forging a validation variable, which is going to check everything. Right? Sorry. Before we do that, I forgot. I wanted to show you this. If input post, and we called this register, right? Now, this is all you need to get post variables from these forms. So if you wanted, we could just die and we could say like input post first name. We could, just to show you how this works, okay? So if I put in a name, I put in my name, right? Now I just see, say that's how it works. It's real simple. It's really, really easy. And this works for Ajax, this works for everything we're gonna do. Now we make the register validation forge. Now we're gonna forge, which again is a function in the validation class that kind of puts everything together. And this is how we're gonna check everything. So from there we go add field. And just make sure, gotta double check yourself. I said sign up here, but it's the same thing. Oh yeah, let me add the callable. This is referencing our, sorry, wrong one. This is referencing our unique rule that we made, right? We called it unique rule. So we're referencing that. Wait, do I have to? I don't think I do. Yeah, I think I have to do every, yeah. And then we're going to add to it, add field, first name, which we're gonna call the field first name, and then we're gonna add some rules. Now, let me just double check. Right. Rules real easy. One is that it's required, and the other is min length. We'll do 2, and the other is max length. This is pretty much what you would see in any other PHP framework. No different. Last name required, min length 2, max length 60. Same thing you've seen a million times. It's just, for me, to me, it's a little bit more streamlined. I like this a lot better. So every time we say field, once we put in like a field call, it'll, get this out of here. It'll call it this. Let's scroll down a bit. Can't see anything here. Required min length, we'll say 5. And now we want to call that unique rule, right? So this is how you would call it. Well, I'll do a max length, I guess. You would add rule unique. Say 800. So we're going to add to this, we're going to add rule unique. And we're going to reference what we're talking about, user's email. That's because, as you've seen, in the unique class, unique rule class, that's what it did. It exploded from the table. It's putting in the list a table and field variable based on the 2 dots. So the first, between the dots, the first one will be the table name, and the second one will be the field. Then it'll do all this. It'll lowercase it, it'll do, you know, whatever, and it'll then compare it. And if there is a hit, then it'll check out as wrong or right, whichever one you prefer. Again, understanding everyone else's systems. Required min length 5, max length 60, and once again we'll do the add rule unique. Users username. Let me just make sure I didn't put any other ones in there. Max length rule. Nope, that's it. Okay. Password, you can do regular expressions if you want. It's up to you. I'm just going to, if you look it up and you look for regular expressions for passwords, they'll have a million of them. It's not a big deal, but I just don't feel like doing it. And then we'll do min length of 8. Then we do conf pass, which will be confirm password, and those are required. And we want to match it to password, which is match field. Well, I don't need required then. Match field. Because if I do required, it's obviously required. It's got to match the field of the password. If the password ain't there, you know, then it's not going to do anything. Now, we want to check and we want to make sure. But before we do that, we want to give a set message. And that would be required. And we want to do it in our usual way. Enter a feckin' and then field. We name the field here. It'll enter that as, if we don't put anything in there, it'll enter that. Otherwise, it's going to give you some weird thing, and you don't want that. You can do that for all the messages. Some of the messages are pretty accurate, and they're human language. Some of them are just bonkers. So, whatever, we'll just set that message. Now, if register runs, then we're going to do something. Else, here's the key. Data first equals register error first name. That's it. That's all you got to do. You don't have to do some weird shit. You don't have to reconfigure anything, your DNA, whatever. You just error last name. It's going to take the name that you pass through, and it's just going to get the error that it's based off of, considering what validation we forged. It's stuff like this that makes Fuel enticing. And I'm not the type to continually show you how things work or whatever. I like to just get stuff done for you guys. Since it's a project and not really a tutorial per se, I just like to explain exactly how this stuff works. We will do tutorials later. Right now we're just kind of putting things together for fun, and I'm trying to teach how this system works, more or less. And just to make you think you've accomplished something, we'll do a die if everything runs. Okay. Obviously, the unique rule is not going to make any difference. But if you go like this, where field, oh, I forgot something. Hold on. Yeah, I forgot a comma. I'm copying it and I forgot a comma. Dumbass. All right, so how about that? Everything else, that's why you copy and paste, right? Everything else looks good. Let's try that again. And then you have that, and if you go like D and whatever, you'll do see how that works? Real name and back for password. But if you get everything right, fuck you. So, but we don't want that to happen. Obviously, we don't want. It's a pretty bad website. It's a pretty shitty website. What we want to happen is we want to actually put this into the table. And that is when we use the ORM forge. Real simple. So, we're going to say new user equals model user, forge. And it's pretty much the same thing we just did here, right? Like we just called the field and blah, blah, blah. As you can see, it's the same thing. There's no difference. We're going to just put in new user, input, post, in new user, first name. We're putting together a class, right? And we already identified each field in that class with the properties. So now it knows property. Input, post, as we've seen before, first name. New user last name equals input post last name. A lot of reasons why I overlook things is because I'm so excited. I want to show you guys. Actually, it's because I'm impatient and I like to move to the next thing as soon as possible. Input post email. Oh, and I have to put valid email in there. I forgot. My fault. Hold on. It's just valid email, right? Yeah, valid email. Because I was thinking for a second, wait a minute, how does it know it's a valid email? New user, username, you put post username. Password, we don't want it to be as is. We're going to make our password, we're going to do password hash, and that is input post password, and it's password bcrypt. Is that it? I always forget this. Password be, damn, I'm good. Password hash, password bcrypt. I'm good. Okay. But we have those relations, right? Remember I was talking about this? Has one. Now, when you want to do multiple relations of the same type, so each user has one credit card and one billing address, you can just kind of link them together. They're just arrays separated by commas. We put them both in has one. We did that the credit card keys from its ID. Well, the credit card is keying from the credit card ID, which is the model CC, which keys to the user ID. So the user ID is the key from, which this one adds to the user ID in its own table. That's the model we're basing on. Cascade save, true. Whenever you save a user, you're saving a credit card. Whenever you delete a user, you're deleting his credit card or her credit card. Billing, same thing. With that in mind, the way that we can automatically input these things, oh yeah, I forgot, roll. We're going to default it, now again, because we made these properties readable here, we have to tell it here when we load in a new user. We have to tell it what the value is. If we didn't put that here, like with the observers, if we didn't put roll here, this is already defaulted to you. This is already defaulted to you. So if we didn't put it in as a property, but we need to reference it. So that's why we put it in as a property. If we didn't put it as a property in the model, it would automatically be you. If we did, since we did, we have to tell it, hey, you. So that's, again, if you want to do created and updated or deleted dates, if you want them to be referenced, put them in the properties, and then just go in here and format the data as you want and load it in, and this way you can reference them all over the website. I'm not doing that. But anyway, new user CC equals model CC forge. And new user billing equals model billing forge. Because of the fact that these are all nullable in billing and CC, the only thing that it's going to do is it's going to update these, the dates, and it's going to put in the ID as user ID. That's what we put together there. So it knows when you make a new user, you're going to put in to the credit card and you're going to put into the billing the user ID as the ID that the user just had indexed. Put that in user ID and then just make everything else null, and we'll update that as we go along. And after that, we just got to save it, and then we just got to, then we go new user save, and then we go user equals new user ID. Now we have to make our session variables. However, session variables in Fuel are another thing that drive me nuts, and I've never had to work, so we're just going to use cookies. Cookies are sessions that don't delete unless you delete them. After ID equals user ID, cookie role, no, cookie set role equals user role. And then we're going to return a response redirect. I don't think it was even, yeah, response redirect home. Redirects are pretty easy in Fuel as well. Now we don't have a home. We have no home. We're homeless. We need to make it. We're going to make a new controller called home, which is going to only house two. And this is how you make a controller in FuelPHP. Controller home extends. This is not going to be a regular controller. It is going to be a controller where we need a template. A template so that we don't have to keep putting the header in and blah, 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 blah. We can just, it's like anything else we've done before with Laravel, Coordinator, any partials, whatever, that's what your template is. And the only way you get those out is you go controller, template. And then usually it automatically loads it. I don't know what this thing is doing right now, but typically it automatically loads. This is the only thing we have to include. And let's see, use fuel core. Why did I do core? Dude, you got to do that, man. You got to do that for me. Controller template. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Dick. Okay. Anyway, and then at that point we do public function action index. Don't forget to put action in there. And we're gonna go like this. This template. I've done the content. Equals view forge, and we're just going to go home index. This is how you do controller templates. This is how you reference their views. We have to go to views now. Let's make a new folder. It's called home. And in that folder, we're going to make one called index. And in the index for now, we'll just go like this. We'll just go get ID. Just so you know who's logged in. We're also in the home going to make a logout function. Action logout. And the only thing this is going to do is it's going to delete the cookie. If you don't, it's going to keep these things saved until the cookie runs out. See, like, that's the difference. Sessions you can destroy or whatever, but they pretty much, once you close the window, the session's pretty much over. Cookies save forever, unless you tell it not to save forever, or you, in this case, delete it, which we're doing right now. And then we're going to return response. And that'll send us back to the login. Now, go to our routes. We have to make sure it knows that there is a home page. And that would be home. I think I called it. Did I call it that? Home index. I think I called it that. Did I call it that? I'm pretty sure I did. I mean, we could call it that. Who gives a shit? We call it that. We'll call it home. But anyway, this way when this thing checks, if this thing checks out, it'll just take us to that page, right? So here we go. We know that the checks work. We know that if we do this, it'll come up with all this stuff. So let's put in an actual user. And let's put in an actual password. And I will make sure that I don't match him. Confirm save didn't work, so we'll do that again. So now let's match him. And we register. Oh, come on. So that didn't work? Nah, you bastard. Let me make sure I put that in the right way. Each one, hold on. Oh, we gotta do it over again. Hormonal. How come I only did it wrong on that one? Alright, well anyway, if you go like this. But yeah, that came first. Actually, it didn't even load that. I wonder why. Anyway, let's do it again. No harm, no foul. We'll do it again. Yeah, that's what I... Oh, no, that's wrong. Oh, shit. Wait, hold on. My fault. I know what I did there. Hold on. Well, let's take a look at the table. Okay, so here we go. We have a user here and credit card. Why is the user ID? Oh, because it didn't. Okay. I didn't redo the whole thing. Okay. And billing. So there you go. So now you have a billing address set and you have a credit card set. However, this I fucked up. So 1 second. Let me change that. User ID, right. Right, okay. That's what I did wrong. Okay, so I had the right idea. So this is just user. And this is new user. Okay. Let me delete that and that. And we'll do it again just to make sure it all checks out. So we'll do that again. Actually, I should have kept them for a sec and then try to register again. Well, yeah, well, I don't care about that. Boom, boom, and boom. Now, just so you know, FuelPHP does have its own authentication, but you know me, I like to make my own, because if something doesn't work out right, then it's hard to figure out how to fix it. Let me start, because we don't have a template here, so we have to make a template, and I think it has to be in views, right? Let me look at my folders. No, hold on. I was looking at my folders for a sec. Public. And assets, items, where is this? Where are you? Right, okay, so it's outside view, so it's here. If we make a template.php and we do the doc type, XML, HTML, line, in, HTML, and we go head, and then we go meta char set, and we do all that, and then we go body, and then in here we go content. We have a template now. It's not much of one, but it's a template. Let me just double check. It's like we're going to redo all this. This way we don't have to keep doing it over. But if we look now, you see we have the user ID. We have the cookie of the user ID. And when I come back, we'll do the sign in. I think we're running, yeah, we're at 30, almost half an hour. So when I come back, we'll do the sign in. But first, let's log out. Oh, I didn't make a route for that. Let's log out so it won't have anybody in there. And then it goes back here. And if we go to home, it's going to give us an error message. It's going to give us nothing. So we don't have a cookie anymore. So anyway, when we come back tomorrow, we'll do the login, and then we'll do the template, which is going to be, whoa, it's going to be incredible. So I will see you then.